was one techie, a single techie, who managed at the beginning of the Thanksgiving weekend, who managed to develop a replica of the app. Took the individual 2 days. So they started at the beginning of Thanksgiving weekend. They were still able to make Thanksgiving dinner. So if it's taking a single techie 2 days to develop an app, I think taxpayers have every right to be shaking our heads, scratching our heads, and wondering how in the world did the federal government manage to spend $54 million on the app. And as you mentioned, there was some people in the tech industry who were estimating that the raw development of the app could have cost even under $250,000. Now, maybe more things go into the app than just its raw development, but I think every single Canadian right now deserves answers from the federal government as to why the tab ballooned to $54 million.
And Franco, we are not getting answers from the federal government.
No.
On Friday, Conservative MP Michael Barrett, he asked, how in the world does this thing end up costing $54 million? And the response he got, and I'll call it a non-response, in fact, I'll call it rubbish, Liberal MP Anthony Horsfather replied, I will make no apology for an app that saved the lives of tens of thousands of Canadians.
Madam Speaker, I will make no apology for an app that saved the lives of tens of thousands of Canadians. This was part of a global health strategy in order to protect Canadians, and this app was put in place in April of 2020, 1 month after a global pandemic.
I'm sorry, I have my speakers on and I still can't hear the answer, and I don't think that the honourable member who asked the question is also able to hear the answer. So I would just ask members to please hold off. The honourable member for the honourable parliamentary secretary can start from the top.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So this app was put in place 1 month after a global pandemic was declared. And in return for answering that question, where the honourable member has insinuated that the price is entirely related to developing the app, that price related to development, accessibility, and support, maintenance, and multiple different contracts. It was not related just to the development of the app.
This is unbelievable. How does he come up? Forget the $54 million figure. At this point, I want to know how this Liberal MP thinks that tens of thousands of Canadian lives have been saved by this app. What gives?
Well, what the government should be apologizing for is a complete lack of transparency, right? And this is a lack of transparency when it comes to corporate contracts. Like, that is a huge deal for taxpayers. You know, the company that received the most amount of federal dollars for this, now they hired a bunch of subcontractors. Look, I'm not a business guru. I don't know if that is the best way to produce this, but what I do know is that taxpayers are the ones who are paying the bill. We deserve to know who those subcontractors are. But for whatever reason, the government has been unwilling to show taxpayers just who those subcontractors are who worked on this app. And now we see the tab ballooning to $54 million. Again, that is double than what was previously disclosed to the public. So we need full transparency on this. We paid the bills. We need to see who was working on it and why the tab ballooned the way it did.
And Franco, we are not getting any transparency on this. In fact, they're doing virtue signaling by saying this app saved tens of thousands of lives, which of course they cannot prove. My question is, do you suspect somebody is getting greased along the way from when this came up as an idea on a piece of paper to the final product, that, you know, there's, I don't know, some payola going on behind the scenes, some liberal crony friends are getting enriched? Because I'm sorry, we look at the numbers once again, and listen, I don't understand these things. I'm a dinosaur. I think the iPhone is akin to magic. But when I see so many people in the Canadian tech sphere say this is outrageous, there's no way this should cost $54 million, is somebody behind the scenes getting greased?
Well, I don't know. And that's why it's so important that we have full transparency, a full disclosure of exactly who these subcontractors were. Now, one thing I think we have to point out too, now I saw this in a National Post article. I was just reading, scrolling through Twitter. I saw this National Post article about the techies who are able to make this app or reproduce the app in 2 days. And one thing that really stuck out to me is that the government managed to outsource the development of the app to about 23 companies. Eight companies had commissions of $1 million or more. Now, when I saw that, I couldn't believe it, but maybe that explains why the tab ballooned the way it did.
But Franco, why would they do that? I mean, again, I don't know the nuts and bolts of developing an app, but why would you go out to 23 different companies? I mean, I can't connect the dots here, my friend.
Well, neither can I. And look, I am not a business guru when it comes to the IT industry, but here's the thing. We advocate on behalf of taxpayers, and it's not just the dollars and cents. Of course, this is a huge sum of money, $54 million, but another key issue here is the transparency. It's the accountability, or should I say lack thereof. Now, we haven't heard any reasonable explanation from this government as to why there's a lack of transparency and as to why it cost us so much. And look, it's not like the app was flawless. I mean, I think we all remember hearing stories about some of the hiccups here. I remember hearing reports back in July of thousands of travelers who were forced into mandatory quarantine, even though they had all of their ducks in a row, so to speak.
No, you're so right. This adds insult to injury, I think, Franco, because that ArriveCan app, I used to call it ArriveCan't. Because it wasn't just a dead dog. It was a dead dog with fleas. I had a friend who was at Montreal Trudeau Airport, and nobody's ArriveCan was working. So the border agents were just hustling everyone through. So far from it from saving the lives of tens of thousands of Canadians, this thing was very temperamental in terms of when it would work. I guess the last question is, we're not going to get a transparent answer, Franco, from the Trudeau Liberals. So does this mean we're going to have to, I don't know, file an FOI and force them to cough up the nitty-gritty costing behind this thing?
Well, isn't that unfortunate that we actually are the ones who are going to have to be able to file the ATIPs to get an answer from this government? Rather, they should be completely transparent with the public. But you know what? I think a lot of people are mad about this, and rightfully so, because, you know, it's sometimes it could be fun to poke at government waste, but we have to remember right now, Canadians are paying too much tax because the government is wasting too much money. And unfortunately, this is not the first example, far from it, where we have seen the Trudeau government, the federal government, waste our tax dollars. And the reason we're all paying way too much tax is because the government in Ottawa is wasting too much of our money.
What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday, I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.